Well, hi, good morning. Thank you so much for joining me here in my shop. Today is April, no it isn't, May, May 24th, 2023, and in front of me are 3 radios. In the last video I posted, I checked these radios out just to see what was up, if there was anything untoward about any of them, or which one I should work on, or which one I should not work on. And the conclusion was these can all be fixed up. This particular one sitting here has got no tubes in it, so this guy needs tubes. So the real question is for me now, who am I doing first? And the answer is I'm going to do the Sparton up here first. So this particular radio is interesting, although it's going away right now, because it has only one IF transformer in it. This makes it the worst radio I've ever seen, perhaps. So it'll be interesting to get that going and then see what it can receive. So, interesting things have happened. It's been a week since I've been in here. One of them was the power is out to my house here for about 4 hours while some power company crews chopped some trees down in the right-of-way behind my house. Well, during that time, I had a chance to turn on an AM radio. In fact, it was, to be specific, it was this one, a transistorized, good quality AM radio, just to see what AM stations are really around. Oh my gosh. I was able to pick up at least a couple dozen AM radio stations. Some of them quite faint, but all of it with essentially zero noise interference. And what a disappointing thing that is, because normally, like today, with the power on, I'm lucky if I can pick up 1 or 2 stations in my shop here. But with all the power off, and it was just off in my neighborhood, so let's say the 10 houses around me here, while they were doing that work, was enough to just wipe all that noise away, and wow. So the future for AM radio, not very good. A buddy of mine just told me that the major automakers have decided to stop including AM radio in their radios, in their cars. And that's just about the only place I can actually listen to AM radio, is in my car, away from my house a little bit. And do I do that? No, I do not. Yes, I used to listen to AM radio, even just not too many years ago. I used to regularly listen to an AM station coming from Buffalo. Not here where I live now, but where I used to live, near Toronto, I could pick up the Buffalo AM station coming across Lake Ontario, all the way from Buffalo. I listened to that in my car. I could not hear it in my home, but I could hear it in my car. Well, that station went off the air a long time ago. They stopped broadcast. It was an NPR station. Okay, so that's the sad thing about these radios, is even if these are made to work really well in themselves, they face an environment which is just full of aggressive noise and levels well beyond any AM stations you might pick up if you're in any way remote from the AM transmitters. And so, too bad, radio. I'm going to fix you up, but you really got to ask yourself, how far should you go with these things now? Because when they get into somebody else's hands, what are they going to do with it? They're not likely to listen to sports on it anymore. So they're likely to use it as a mantelpiece, and with the occasional demonstration that, look, it works. And what do they need to pick up to do that? Well, they'd like to pick up a station, I'm sure, and say to their friends, see, look, my old radio picks up stations. But probably picking up weird noises is enough to fascinate and enthrall the observing audience. So it really does leave a big question about how far to go with these little radios. I have a little bit of a different feeling about bigger radios with shortwave bands on them. Not that shortwave is a great place to go and spend your time, you know, listening to the world. Most of the world is not there anymore on shortwave, but there are interesting things to listen to. But what's beating the heck out of classic older shortwave radios, a couple of which I have, you know, when I was much younger, I saw that if I was lucky, I would reach the age of retirement, and then what would I do? oh, I want to make sure I get there with some really good radios. And I have. I've got two fantastic receivers, two big 80-pound military receivers with 30 tubes in them, and they are great. And they're still usable, and there's lots of stuff all over shortwave to listen to. Not a lot of broadcast shortwave, but other stuff you can listen to. But what's beating the heck out of them is these guys here. This is an example of an SDR radio. This is one of the earlier ones. I'm not even sure you can buy this anymore. Mine's got this plastic on it. I never took off, so it looks a little rough, but it's actually not so rough. SDR radios. I know what's happening with me. When I go to listen to radios, on goes my computer, on goes the SDR radio. I have a better one than this. This is a cheap type of SDR radio. Lots of fun, but hardly a good receiver. A lot of birdies in it and weird stuff in it. I have a little bit of a better one. I still didn't pay very much money for it. And, you know, I love using it because of the display on your computer screen, all that stuff. Where is there room for any kind of classic analog radio in people's lives anymore? So I'm getting tears in my eyes. So my early plan was valid at the time. Preserve these old radios so when you get to retirement you have something to play with. It would be terrible to get there and not have a good radio. So I've preserved them all the way to here, but guess what? They've been knocked away by new technology, which is probably going to be knocked away again by more new technology. I don't think the technology train is going to pull into the station soon. So where are we with all this stuff? So you got to face the hard reality. This is probably what's going on with these radios. They're going to be demonstrators, occasionally operated, never relied on, never listened to at length, almost certainly. Now, I mean, if you live close to an AM station you like to listen to, well, maybe. But I think for the vast majority of people, this is what this is becoming, is really quite a curiosity and not much more. Oh my gosh. The world is moving forward. So the reason I'm talking about this is you're hearing me kind of work my way through all this. How far should I go with a radio like this? This is not my radio. It's going to go... Actually, you know what? This is my radio. I do own this one. But I don't think it's going to be on my mantle. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Well, you don't know until you get it all cleaned up and take a good look at it. This radio was largely working as it stands, if I remember right. All that it seemed to really require was the resoldering of this trimmer back onto the chassis here, followed by an alignment. Now, why would I go and change all the capacitors in this radio? To achieve what? Well, to make sure it operates, but it operates already. So it seems. To give it life way into the future. Well, it's made it this far. It can probably make it a long ways further with the same parts in it. To increase its value on resale. Well, you know, the value of a radio like this is around $40, I would say. 40. Maybe if somebody has a memory or the cabinet is somehow very desirable or something unusual about it. $50, $60. Can't be much more than that. When you could roll out. I think I bought this for $30 when I bought it. I think they're a little hard to get now for $30. And this is an RTL SDR. These are the early ones. There are better ones. You're going to pay a couple $100 for it. What do you want to do? A couple $100 into one of those, or? Well, obviously, if you're going to buy something like this, you're going to buy it because of the way it looks, and you want it on your mantle. I mean, that's kind of where it's at. So cleaning it up, making it look good, make sure it's got its knobs, and the light comes on, and all these different things like that, probably more important than the performance of the radio itself. Okay, that's the end of my long speech here. You see, I've been out of the shop for a while, so I've got pent-up words. I need to pour them out. So what I'm going to do with this radio is I'm going to solder this part back. I'm going to play around with it, see how well it works. Maybe do a little adjustment of the alignment. So try to peak it up a little bit. and then see if I can just leave it the way it is. You know, if it is possible, a radio like this may be all original. I doubt it's all original. Like we talked about this before, this capacitor looks replaced down here, but it's had only what I would call life work done to it, work done during its regular operating life. So this went in a shop somewhere, somebody changed one capacitor and got their $7 repair fee back in 1958, and I think that, you know, that to me is still kind of original. Replacing the tubes in that, wow, all these radios are going to have some history of tube replacement, so I don't think that's an issue of all original. So it really comes down to the cabinet then. Let's take another look at it. This is really where my energy should be put, is in cleaning this guy up. Now, what's happened to the R in Sparton? I think it's just dirty. And I discovered earlier that this white stuff, this is some kind of powder that has settled on the radio. The cabinet is definitely bakelite, which is an attractive thing. So generally, you know, it's a smallish radio. It's sit on your mantle, not take up too much space. And look, it looks like a radio. It does have a light, so when you click it on, this light will come on and light this up a little bit. So, okay, maybe you can get 70 bucks for it. If I do a good job. 75. 75. So there's no money in this. That's basically what I'm saying. No one's going to get rich fixing stuff like this. And that's never been my intention, to try to earn substantial money doing this. Not at all. My YouTube videos pay me a small amount, and that's good. And what I charge to do these radios is pretty much nothing. So there you are. Too much talk, not enough do. Okay, what I'm going to do, let's go drink some coffee, and then we're going to solder that part back, play this radio, and see what happens. Okay, now I'm pretty sure if I use my soldering iron on here, I'll never get this hot enough. If you look at it here, you can see a splash of solder here, and a large flat area on here. This had to be pretty hot. This had to be pretty hot to get the solder to do that. And your little soldering iron's not going to get there. So I'm going to heat it up with, no, I've got a blowtorch here. I'm going to heat it up with this blowtorch, sort of preheat it. Let's get some heat kind of generally spread through this. Hey, are there any parts in there I might overheat? I can see some liquid solder there already. Oh, just drip right on that. Okay, watch what you do with that soldering iron gem. Not soldering iron. You can smell some burning plastic odor. I have a feeling this is actually soldered here already. Oh, that's going good. Okay, that's probably enough. Whoa! Turned the valve the wrong way there. I got a 1-foot flame in my shop. While we're waiting for that to cool, I am going to say something political. I, for one, would never vote for a politician who spends the bulk of his time telling me why I should not vote for the other guy. If a politician doesn't have enough reasons for me to vote for him, that he's got to spend his time telling me why not to vote for the other guy, I got no interest in that politician. They got nothing in their heads. Okay, that's got to be solid. That's my political thing for today. Okay, so we want to fire this guy up again and see how well it works, because I remember it worked surprisingly well, as is. maybe I'm completely finished. Just a little bit of torching. She's all done. Okay, switch is off. Power's on through the dim lights. Nothing happening. Switching on the power. The dim lights do their thing. Yeah, because based on my earlier analysis, my time is best spent making this look good. Make it work okay, but make it look good. Its only hope in the future is to be a good looking radio. This is not the right cabinet here. So this one has a radio in it. Let's put this aside. We'll put the right cabinet up here so we know what we're looking at here. That's a little better. Okay, no hum. Good reception. Not everyone loves Marineland. So when I turn this dial, the pointer goes in the opposite direction from what? So I'm going to turn the dial this way. I would want the pointer to go that way. It goes the other way. So that's a strong indication somebody replaced the string and got it backwards. And I know from my experience, once you get it on there, if it's backwards, you kind of go, well, I'll live with that rather than start over. So it's right here. This is 600, so this would be about 590 here, which is right where the Strong Sports station is located. Right, it's a Strong station. It's not Strong Sports. It's a Strong station. Okay, well, my conclusion can only be, hey, what's going on with the light here? Did I loosened that off, didn't I? Yeah. So it's pretty crazy. A great big bulb up here, and they want to get a little bit of light cast into this. And then this must be a diffuser here, this piece of paper, to try to soften the light a bit. And usually a cabinet doesn't seal up, but if you look, these speakers usually have a white ring. Well, you can't see anything with this light blazing. They have usually a ring around them of a material which they hope will press up against the cabinet. Often the cabinet has a ring in it. See the ring? The ring right here. You can see some of the material stuck on it here. So they're trying to press that speaker against the ring and seal it. Well, fat chance on that happening these days. Because. So what can happen then is light can leak out through places that they never intended it to leak out. What am I going to do about that? Not much. Okay, so the next step is, I think really, the next two steps are align the radio, make sure the alignment is good. It's already working, so how bad can it be? The dial's accurate, so how bad can it be? Let's find out. We can find out right now. Okay, so I'm going to take a metal screwdriver, and I'm going to stick it into the IF can, just plunge it in and out and see if it affects any of these. Because it's capacitors up here, trimmer capacitors. So I don't think it has any effect. So I'm going to use this now. I have a flag on it here. And I'm going to check to see. This is a very crude way of doing this. Notice where the flag is so I can get back. Well, that was a terrible, terrible, terrible mistake. Or was it? It's very odd. Something went click, and I imagined the coil spinning inside and the wire breaking. But it doesn't seem to be what's happened. Well, there's no coil to spin, Jim. It's a capacitor. So we get the loudest sound pretty much where it was to start. This is not a recommended procedure. This is actually counter-recommended. Don't do this. But I know if I mess it up, I can sort it out properly. So I think to some degree what was happening there is I was widening out the response curve. Ooh. So I think what's happening here now is I'm increasing the effectiveness of the IF to the point where it's beginning to feed back on itself. And that could be indicative of weak capacitors. So just get it away from the oscillation. But it could be the peak is actually So another thing you can listen for is the pitch of the sound. As you get these radios tuned more properly, you'll start hearing a little more bass. Now it's hard to hear bass with a speaker like this, and it's not even in a cabinet, so it's really tough. But if you listen, I'll point out where this is happening. The sound becomes a little more shrill. Let's see if I can get there again. Okay, come back from that squeal. Okay, conceivably, if my theory is right, this is the best position for it now without it squealing. Let's go back a little further, away from the squeal, and I think you'll hear this will thin out and become more bassless, I guess is the word. It's very hard to tell, isn't it? I'm afraid my overactive imagination is working here. So the bottom line here is, looks like the radio is just about operating at peak performance. If you peak it right up, looks like an oscillation gets set up. Probably again because of a bad capacitor that should be decoupling these signals or drawing down or eliminating signals that could accidentally make it back to where they shouldn't go. The output of the IF is very strong and the input is very sensitive. So if any of the output makes it back to the input, come through again. Now what about these guys? So one of these is the antenna adjustment. And one's the oscillator. We think the oscillator is good. That's this one I just attached. Oddly enough, seemed to be right on. Just looking for a good place to listen to this. Now normally you're doing this trimmer at the high end of the band, not where I am at the low end. It's much more effective at the high end. But let's do it here. Can we get any more out of this radio? Okay, noticing where the flag is again. Well, I would say right in here. That's exactly where it was. It was, again, wrong end of the band, but let's not worry about that. You know what? That's it. I think I'm finished, except for the cabinet. So I'm going to spend some time working on the cabinet and make this guy look good. People will be fooled into buying it for $40. That'll be that'll be the deal. Who knows? It won't be me who's selling it. Okay, so I'm going to go and spend some time cleaning this guy up. Okay, well I started working on cleaning this white powder off this cabinet, and it turns out it doesn't want to come off, so I'm not sure what I'm dealing with here. This stuff is all over the place. Is it, you know, this is Bakelite, so it's not painted or anything like that. You can't be flaking off paint revealing white underneath. I can't imagine that. It's got to be a deposit on it, but let's take a close look at it with this camera here, and we'll see what we can figure out about it. What has happened to this radio? Like, was it in a flour mill? Where was this radio that it got this kind of stuff on it? So I worked a little hard on this corner. Well, it certainly looks like it's on the surface. Let me get something sharp here to scrape with. Let's just try. Okay, I got my left hand on this tool here. Wow, it's just caked on there like it's, what could this possibly be? Some kind of weird environment where this powder was floating around. It settled on all the, how did it get up the side here like this? Boy, I'm scraping at it. Oh my gosh, this is, that was a tiny screwdriver with a fairly sharp edge. Here's a knife. I'm going to put the camera down here. Let's go at a spot where we can see it. It's not quite high enough. Let me try a different arrangement here with the camera. Okay, now I'm going to try to slice that off with this is the Swedish knife, without scraping up the cabinet. Oh my gosh, it's really, it does come off though. Oh yeah, it'll come off. Am I just filling the cabinet with scratch marks? So pretty easy. Bakelite usually has kind of a surface on it. Yeah, I'm scratching it up all right. Look at that. It has a surface on it that you can easily disrupt by doing stuff like what I'm doing right now. Or too vigorous of a washing. You can accidentally just, let me get this camera stable here. It's got a mind of its own. The cord is pulling it, come on. Stay. This is a bad arrangement. Bad arrangement, bad arrangement. Well, if I can pick this stuff off, I've already figured that out. If I can pick it off, then that's kind of, I guess, what I got to do. I got to spend some time here. I got the camera stable now. Okay. Try digging it out of this corner here. This would be a major effort. This is where all the work is, doing this. I can't really look at the camera image and do this. I have to look right at it. I'll do a little bit, then I'll look and see. Is this a good thing to do? Or is this not a good thing to do? Oh boy. Very light touch on the blade here. I'm not pushing hard. Sweden. Yeah, I feel like if you don't have, Scandinavian or Nordic, a Nordic knife would work too. Then you can't do this kind of stuff. You need the Nordic fish knives to work on radios. Well, that's enough. That's enough for me to realize what I'm up against. Could there be a material that would dissolve this away a little bit? Make it soft? I threw a lot of water on it, and water did absolutely nothing. It's like it's cemented on there. So the problem here is the coating on the Bakelite can be abraded off very quickly and easily without you realizing it. So if you have a really dirty radio and you get out steel wool or something like that and start going at it, the dirt's going to come off. By the time you're done, you'll realize you've taken off this very, very thin shell, and it looks different after that. It doesn't look the same. You begin to see the fibrous materials that are in here because they'll be visible at the surface because you've taken the cover off. So you want to be very careful with these things. It's a one-way trip. If you wreck a Bakelite radio that way. There's lots of information on YouTube about how to clean these things, including a lot of talk about using Brasso and stuff like that. And I stay clear of all that. I just use water. Water and a little bit of elbow grease. By the way, if you put water on one of these and then smell it, like I just did, you can smell a characteristic odor of this material. So that's how you can prove it's Bakelite. You just put some water on it and smell it, and you'll smell a very characteristic odor, which I did. There's no question this is Bakelite. Bakelite is part of the value of this radio. Calling this a Bakelite cabinet radio puts another $5 into its value. Well, it's not much more I can do on camera here, I'm afraid. All the rest of the work is just boring mechanical stuff. This hasn't been the most exciting video I've done. But I had been out of the shop for 10 days or 7 days or something like that, so I got to warm up slowly to get back into the tough nuts. Okay, I'm going to leave it here and spend part of my day doing this, but I see the rain has stopped, the clouds are clearing, the sun is coming back. Aurelia is known, where I live, is known for being a very sunny place, and it lives up to its reputation for sure. So don't know if I'll get back in here today. We'll see. Okay, I got a little more to say here. So I'm abrading it off with a stick, and this is actually a skewer. And I buy these just at the grocery store, and these are really handy. Just skewers. The thing about doing this that I've noticed, and that's taking something that's in rough shape like this, spending a lot of time to make a huge improvement in how it looks. When you're all done, because it's not perfect, people will still react to what little bit is left. And in fact, it's almost worse in a way. It isn't worse, but it's almost worse. And you do all that work, and then just the smallest little imperfection really stands out. Now, this thing's terrible to start with, so can I possibly make it worse? Now I'm using a wooden stick. I figure this is softer than the shell here, so I'm not going to scratch off the shell. But obviously, if you do this too much and too hard, you're going to do something bad to it. So that's all I've done. A little calculation here. So this took about maybe 5 minutes. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. So it looks like about an hour of doing this kind of stuff. And so what I can do is I wait until things dry up outside, till the rain dries up. I'll take this out on my deck, sit outside and enjoy the day while picking at this crap on this radio. And I'll make the hour go by pretty good. I won't watch out there. I almost skewered myself with the skewering stick. I'm letting you see this so you get an idea of what it is I'm doing. I mean, you might face this kind of thing. I don't know. I don't know. Anybody else got a radio that came out of a flour mill? And I don't think this is flour, because whatever it is caked on here. It's like cement. It's more like maybe this was in a cement factory or something. I don't know. Yeah, did I say 5 minutes? Yeah, so that 5-minute estimate turns out to be 10 minutes, then 1 hour becomes 2. But you get this all done, and it's still going to look kind of crappy. Here's an area where, excuse me, the Bakelite has been damaged right in here. So now a little bit of wax on here, just regular, excuse me, wax polish, furniture polish, might make that look a lot better. And the word Sparton here, which is so important, unfortunately, the paint in here is gone. So it's kind of the opposite to the problem I'm having. White where I don't want it, and white is missing where I want it. So I could try to, I don't know, put something in here to make this stand out a bit better. Better not pick at it. I couldn't get the white off of here and stick it in there. That'd be great. But the word Spartan is pretty important to get straightened. It's right on the front of the radio. It's the first thing people are going to look at. What's that say? Sparton also is a well-known name for vintage radios, so to have a Sparton is to have something. Add another $5 on that, so now we're up to what? 50 bucks. $50 if I can clean this guy up. Only if I can clean it up. Okay. I think I'm going to post this video at this point, and maybe on the next video, if I manage to get this guy clean and together, I'll give him a flash showing. That's it. So, not the most technical video here, but it is what it is. I hope you enjoy your day, because I'm going to go and enjoy mine. See ya.